You should see their faces right now. You should see the way their jaws went slack. The way their eyes started darting across the page. The way their hands started trembling just slightly as they scrolled down through credentials they never knew existed. Achievements they never imagined. Connections they never suspected. Power they never calculated. They thought they knew you. They thought they had you figured out, categorized, filed away in their little mental drawer labeled harmless or beneath us or safe to disrespect. But then someone, maybe out of curiosity, maybe out of spite, maybe out of sheer accident, decided to actually look you up. And what they found, what they're staring at right now with their mouths hanging open like broken doors, is a resume that reads like a threat letter to their entire sense of reality. Welcome back to the moment everything changed. Welcome back to the exact second when the people who underestimated you, who dismissed you, who talked over you in meetings, who excluded you from opportunities, who smiled in your face while plotting behind your back, finally saw the receipts. And I'm not talking about the little resume you showed them when you were humble, when you were trying to fit in, when you were playing small because you thought that's what they needed to feel comfortable around you. No, no, no. I'm talking about the real one. The full one. The one with achievements that span industries, certifications that take decades to earn, projects that changed actual lives, networks that include names they only see in headlines, skills they didn't even know were skills, languages they can't pronounce, experiences that read like fiction because their reality is just too small to contain your truth. They're reading it right now, line by line, bullet point by bullet point, and with each new revelation, their stomachs are dropping lower and lower until they're somewhere near their shoes. Because this isn't just impressive, this is terrifying. This isn't just accomplished. This is untouchable. This isn't just qualified. This is overqualified to the point of insult. And suddenly all those moments when they talked down to you, when they questioned your intelligence, when they interrupted you mid-sentence, when they took credit for your ideas, when they acted like you should be grateful just to be in the room. All of those moments are playing back in their minds like a horror movie where they just realized they were the villain all along. You weren't the underdog. You were the wolf in sheep's clothing, the dragon pretending to be a lizard, the champion playing in the minor leagues just to see what it felt like to be normal for a while. But now the disguise is off. Now the truth is out. Now they're holding in their hands the documented proof that they were never in your league, never even in your universe, never even close to understanding who they were really dealing with. And the best part, the absolute chef's kiss of this whole situation, is that you never had to say a word. You didn't have to defend yourself, didn't have to prove yourself, didn't have to argue or fight or beg for respect. Your resume did all the talking. Your credentials told the story. Your achievements wrote the ending. And that ending reads like a eulogy for their ego, a death certificate for their superiority complex, a final notice to every assumption they ever made about you. They're asking themselves now in the privacy of their own panic, who the hell were we messing with? And you're just sitting somewhere calm, unbothered, doing exactly what you've always done, being exactly who you've always been, while they spiral into the realization that they just spent months, maybe years, disrespecting someone who could have ended their career with a single phone call. Someone who knows people they'll never meet. Someone whose worst day is still better than their best achievement. Someone who was never climbing the ladder because they built the whole building. Let that sink in while we go deeper, because trust me, it gets so much better. Let's talk about what they're seeing right now, shall we? Let's walk through this resume line by line, section by section, and really savor the moment when each new revelation hits them like a punch to their professional pride. First section, education. They probably thought you had a basic degree from a decent school. Nothing special, nothing threatening. But no, what they're looking at now is a list that reads like an academic achievement unlocked guide. Multiple degrees, some from institutions they've only seen in movies, some from programs that accept less than 2% of applicants, some in fields so specialized that there are maybe 300 people on the entire planet who understand what you studied. Certifications that take years to complete. Training programs that cost more than their annual salary. Academic honors that prove you weren't just present. You were exceptional. You were the standard. You were the one everyone else was trying to keep up with. And it doesn't stop there. Experience section. This is where it gets really interesting. They thought you were entry-level or maybe mid-tier at best. Someone who was still figuring things out, still learning the ropes, still climbing. But what they're reading now is a career timeline that spans industries, that crosses continents, that includes positions they don't even have the qualifications to apply for. You've led teams of 50, 100, 200 people. You've managed budgets with more zeros than they can count on both hands. You've launched products that millions of people use every single day without even knowing your name. You've consulted for companies they respect from a distance. You've spoken at conferences where tickets cost thousands. You've published research that changed how entire industries operate. You've sat in rooms with decision makers who shape global policy. And all of this history, all of this power, all of this proof was happening while they were treating you like you were lucky to be there. Skills section. Oh, this is delicious. They probably assumed you had basic competency, maybe one or two strong areas, definitely nothing that would outshine them. Wrong. What they're staring at now is a skill set so diverse, so deep, so impossibly comprehensive that it reads like 3 different people's resumes combined. You speak languages they've never heard of. You code in systems they don't understand. You analyze data sets they couldn't even load on their computers. You design strategies that require understanding psychology, economics, technology, and human behavior all at once. You create, you build, you solve, you innovate across disciplines they didn't even know could connect. You're not just good at your job, you're good at 12 jobs. And you could do any of them better than the specialists who've dedicated their entire careers to just one. Then there's the section they really weren't ready for, achievements and awards. They thought you were invisible, unremarkable, someone who just blended into the background. But the list they're reading now tells a different story. Industry recognition from organizations they've only read about. Performance awards that come with plaques and ceremonies. Patents, actual patents, meaning you invented something that didn't exist before, something valuable enough to protect legally. Publications in journals they can't access without institutional credentials. Speaking engagements at events they'll never be invited to. Media mentions and outlets they scroll through every morning without ever thinking they'd see your name there. Community impact awards proving you weren't just successful. You were significant. You mattered. You changed things. And every single one of these accolades was earned while they were busy underestimating you. While they were assuming you were beneath them, while they were treating you like you should be grateful for their attention. Professional network. This might be the section that breaks them completely, because it's one thing to have credentials. It's another thing to have connections. And your connections, the people who endorse you, who recommend you, who vouch for your work, these aren't just colleagues. These aren't just peers. These are names they recognize from news articles, from industry reports, from Forbes lists, from TED Talks, from bestseller lists, from positions of power they'll spend their entire lives trying to reach. You know people who run things. You have references who could make one phone call and change someone's entire trajectory. You've worked alongside legends, learned from masters, collaborated with innovators. Your network isn't a network. It's a private club. It's an inner circle. It's access they'll never have, no matter how hard they try. And realizing this, realizing that you are always connected to power they couldn't even perceive. This is what's keeping them up tonight. This is what's making them replay every interaction. This is what's making them wonder if you remember, if you noticed, if you're telling those powerful people about how they treated you. Now their minds are racing backwards, rewinding through every single interaction they had with you. And each memory is hitting different now that they know the truth. Remember when they interrupted you in that meeting? You were making a point, a valid strategic point backed by experience they didn't know you had, and they just talked right over you like your words didn't matter, like your perspective was irrelevant, like you were wasting everyone's time. They remember that now. They remember how the room went quiet, how you just stopped talking, how you sat back with this expression they couldn't quite read at the time, but now they understand. That wasn't defeat on your face. That wasn't embarrassment. That wasn't insecurity. That was restraint. That was someone with the power to destroy, choosing mercy instead. That was someone who could have pulled out credentials that would have made the entire room apologize, but deciding it wasn't worth the energy. You let them have their moment. Let them feel smart. Let them think they won because you knew something they didn't. You knew your resume was sitting somewhere waiting to be discovered. Remember when they questioned your qualifications for a project? They actually had the audacity to suggest you weren't experienced enough, weren't knowledgeable enough, weren't trusted enough to handle something important. And you just nodded, took the feedback, didn't argue, didn't defend, didn't pull out the list of similar projects you completed at 10 times the scale for organizations, 10 times more prestigious. You let them reassign the work to someone they deemed more capable, someone who promptly struggled with every aspect because they didn't have a fraction of your expertise. You watched it unfold. You even helped when asked. You never said "I told you so" because you didn't need to. Your resume would tell that story eventually. And now they're reading about projects that make their entire company look like a practice run. Initiatives that dwarf anything they've ever accomplished. Results that prove you weren't just qualified, you were overqualified to a degree that their questioning was actually insulting. Remember when they took credit for your idea? You presented a solution in a casual conversation. They nodded along, said something non-committal, then 2 weeks later presented that exact solution as their own in a formal pitch and got praised for it while you sat there watching your intellectual property get stolen in real time. They remember that now, too. They remember how you didn't call them out, didn't make a scene, didn't fight for recognition. They thought that meant you didn't notice or didn't care. But what it really meant was that you've had ideas stolen before by people far more important than them. You've created innovations that got credited to entire teams. You've generated value that made other people rich and famous. And you learned long ago that people who steal ideas are people who can't generate their own. Which means they'll always need you more than you need them. Your resume proves you're an idea factory, a creative engine, a strategic mind that produces value constantly. Their theft was just them revealing their own poverty. Remember when they excluded you from opportunities, the projects they didn't invite you to, the meetings they held without you, the promotions they gave to people with half your qualifications, the training sessions they deemed not necessary for your role, the networking events they forgot to mention, the advancement opportunities that somehow never included your name. They made you feel invisible, made you question your worth, made you wonder if you were doing something wrong or if you just weren't good enough. And all along you had a resume that proved you'd already surpassed every opportunity they were gatekeeping. You'd already done the job they were protecting, already earned the title they were hoarding, already achieved the recognition they were desperate for. You didn't need their scraps because you'd already eaten at tables they'll never be invited to. You weren't excluded because you weren't good enough. You were excluded because including you would have exposed how mediocre they actually were. Remember when they talked down to you, the condescending tone, the explanations of things you already knew better than them, the way they simplified concepts like you couldn't handle complexity, the way they questioned your understanding of basics while you were mentally solving advanced problems they couldn't even identify. Every patronizing comment, every dismissive gesture, every moment they treated you like a student when you were actually the teacher, it's all coming back to them now with the weight of your credentials behind it. They talked down to someone who'd forgotten more than they'll ever learn. They explained elementary concepts to someone who'd written the advanced textbook. They questioned the intelligence of someone whose IQ was probably visible from space. And the worst part, the part that's really eating them alive right now, is that you let them. You let them feel smart. Let them feel superior. Let them think they were teaching you something. Because correcting them would have required revealing yourself. And you weren't ready for that yet. But now the reveal has happened without you even trying. And they're drowning in the reality of their own ignorance. Right now, right this very moment, they're experiencing a very specific type of panic. It's not the panic of getting caught doing something wrong. It's deeper than that, more existential than that. It's the panic of realizing your entire understanding of reality was wrong. It's the panic of discovering that the social hierarchy you believed in was fiction. It's the panic of understanding that you've been disrespecting someone who could have ended you professionally with a whisper, but chose silence instead. Their hands are shaking slightly as they scroll through your resume again, hoping they misread something, hoping there's an explanation that makes this less catastrophic. But every line just confirms what they're desperately trying to deny. You weren't the underdog. You were never the underdog. You were the final boss disguised as a tutorial-level enemy. They're running calculations now, trying to figure out damage control. Do you remember the way they treated you? Definitely. Do you care? Unclear. Are you the type to seek revenge? They're searching your resume for clues. Looking at your professional summary for hints about your character. Reading between the lines of your accomplishments, trying to determine if you're someone who forgives or someone who keeps receipts. And here's what's terrifying them most. They can't tell. Your resume is impressive, but it's also controlled, professional, factual. It doesn't reveal your emotional state, doesn't hint at grudges, doesn't telegraph your next move. You're a mystery to them now, a powerful mystery. And not knowing what you're thinking or planning or remembering is driving them absolutely insane. They've lost control of the narrative, lost the advantage, lost the ability to predict your behavior. And people who are used to being in control cannot handle that level of uncertainty. They're also doing the social math, calculating who else might know, who else might have seen your real resume, who else might be looking at them differently now. Did you tell anyone about how they treated you? Do your powerful connections know their names? Has your network been watching this whole situation unfold with insider knowledge they didn't have? Are they being discussed in rooms they don't have access to? Are decisions being made about their future by people who now see them as the villains in your story? Every paranoid thought is blooming in their minds like toxic flowers. And the worst part is they can't ask you, can't confirm or deny, can't do anything except sit with the possibility that their reputation is being quietly destroyed by the very person they tried to diminish. Your silence is more powerful than any accusation could be, because silence leaves room for imagination, and their imagination is running wild with worst-case scenarios. Some of them are trying to rationalize, trying to convince themselves it's not that bad. Maybe you don't remember them specifically. Maybe you were too busy being successful to notice their disrespect. Maybe you're above holding grudges. Maybe this will all blow over without consequences. But these rationalizations feel hollow even as they think them, because deep down they know. They absolutely know that you remember everything. People who achieve what you've achieved don't get there by being oblivious. You noticed every slight, cataloged every dismissal, registered every condescending comment, filed away every stolen idea. You just didn't react in the moment because you were playing a longer game than they were capable of understanding. And now that game is entering a new phase, a phase where the truth is public, where the power dynamic has visibly shifted, where they can no longer pretend they're your equals or your superiors. The really fun part, the part that's causing actual physical discomfort, is imagining what you're thinking about them right now. Are you laughing? Are you disappointed? Are you planning something? Are you telling people? Are you just completely unbothered because they were never important enough to occupy space in your mind? That last option might actually be the worst one. The idea that they spent all this time and energy underestimating you, disrespecting you, trying to keep you down, and you barely noticed them at all because you were operating on a level where they simply didn't matter. They want to be your rival, your enemy, your obstacle, because at least that would mean they were significant. But the truth that's slowly sinking in is that they were probably just background noise in your story, extras in a movie where you're the star, NPCs in a game where you're the main character. And realizing you're insignificant to someone you tried to diminish, that's a special kind of torture. But here's where it gets psychological, where it moves beyond panic into full existential crisis territory. Because their entire professional identity was built on a foundation that just collapsed. They believed they were smart, capable, accomplished, valuable, important.